lot to talk about here on the Squared Circle Psycho Babble, including the status of Jeff Cobb, AEW's approach to their All Elite Wrestling roster, and what's going on with Matt Hardy. Thank you for joining us here on the Squared Circle Psycho Babble. My name is Michael Valenti. This is Ralph Valenti. For news, reviews, and conversations on all things pro wrestling, subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications. So we start with Jeff Cobb. As you know, we found out last Wednesday he is appearing on AEW Dynamite, has a big match against Jon Moxley this coming Wednesday. Kind of shocked a lot of people in the wrestling community that he showed up. I know we talked about it in the All Elite Wrestling draft back in November. I said he'll probably end up in New Japan Pro Wrestling. But here he is in All Elite Wrestling, and everyone's excited that he's part of the roster. But let's not get too excited yet, because it's not for a full-time basis. According to Dave Meltzer, he's not signed full-time, although Cody Rhodes wants him to be full-time. But Jeff Cobb wants to do things in New Japan Pro Wrestling as well. So how do you take this news here with Jeff Cobb?
Honestly, not really all that surprised. I mean, certainly he's somebody who's a relatively bigger name, especially when you consider kind of who the free agents currently are, or guys that are going to be signing contracts with other promotions, and just some of the things that you've seen over the last course of the last year, I guess you can say, guys going back and forth between, AEW, New Japan Pro Wrestling, guys like Marty Scurll being signed to Ring of Honor, but working for NWA. I think this is going to be the trend that we start to see more and more, and I think this is something that guys are going to be looking for more and more. The opportunity to make a living, not be contractually obligated to stay in one promotion in comparison to the WWE. We know that WWE probably will never get to the point where they allow their talent to go in between different promotions, unless it's a smaller promotion like, NXT. Their guys will go to UK and work, and promotions like that they work with directly. But I don't think the WWE would allow, for example, a top guy to go to New Japan Pro Wrestling like AEW allows their talent to do so. So I think this is just them, AEW being competitive, Ring of Honor being competitive, NWA, all of them being competitive. So that way the talent, if they're going back and forth, it doesn't necessarily affect the business.
I definitely agree with you on the fact that I believe that this is a change in the wrestling industry, where instead of, the promotions really having a say of what the wrestlers can do, the wrestlers are kind of taking the power here. You've seen this for quite some time in the NBA, where it seems like the players have controlled the league instead of the owners. I think this is a case where the wrestlers are starting to control the industry instead of the owners of the promotion, where if a guy like Tony Khan wants to keep a Jeff Cobb, if they want to have a Jon Moxley, a Chris Jericho, they might have to allow them to have flexibility. And you see that with Ring of Honor. They know Ring of Honor can't have these guys full time and get them like basically nothing. The Ring of Honor right now has nothing to offer. So you say, okay, well, you could go do NWA stuff and you could do independent dates. That's where the industry is going. And I understand Ring of Honor have always allowed their talent to do independent stuff, and there was a partnership with NWA in the past. But now that, Jeff Cobb, could he go to New Japan Pro Wrestling and do the G1 again? Probably.
Yep.
While being a part of AEW, and we see that with Moxley. So I think this is just a changing of the times, where wrestlers don't have to be belonging to just one promotion.
Yeah. And until there is a promotion, if it ever happens, that gets to the size and the notoriety that WWE is at, I think this will probably continue, and the guys, meaning the wrestlers, will start to have more and more opportunities to sign these types of contracts where they can go back and forth. And even the guys like Moxley right now, where he's going to so the rumor is he's filing trademarks for the name Moxley, I believe, or Mox.
He filed for Jon Moxley and Mox.
Yeah, so these guys, they're always listed as independent contractors. Well, now some of these guys, it seems like they're trying to take that, their career into their own hands, and
right.
Trying to trademark themselves and trademark their names. We know obviously there was a big issue between Ryback and who right now currently WWE, I guess, owns the rights to the name Ryback, and he wants the rights to that name.
Right.
So if he chooses to go work, things like that. And this is really a good time in the industry where the guys can get paid more. They have flexible options. They don't necessarily have to go to WWE to be successful depending on what you think success is, but they don't have to go there to make a living. They can make the name for themselves outside of the WWE. So it's not only an interesting time for the fans, but it seems like it's also benefiting the talent as well, which is always good.
Right. And the only thing you got to ask yourself is if you're AEW, who have this big TV deal with TNT and have it for the next 4 years, and they allow their talents to go to New Japan Pro Wrestling, who don't have a TV deal in the States, or eventually they have deals with Ring of Honor and NWA if those ever come to fruition. What does that mean if, let's say, Moxley, we've already seen it once already, where Moxley got hurt and it cost them a big match for All Out.
Yep.
A high-profile match had to get canceled because of him getting hurt. Or with Pac, there was him being involved with Dragon Gate, and because of his status in Dragon Gate, there were issues there, and a match got canceled at Double or Nothing last year. So what does AEW do to kind of prevent that stuff from happening and make sure these guys aren't taking too much and they end up getting hurt?
Yeah, I think that, getting hurt in professional wrestling is just like a byproduct of working in the industry. Right. You don't want it to ever happen, but there's only so much control you have over that. As far as the guys going back and forth between different promotions, AEW especially, I think they're in a position where they almost have to offer these types of contracts if they want to continue to get credible talent, because they're in a position where, they're in a good spot right now. They just had their TV deals renewed for another 4 years or however long. They're getting another another TV show out of that deal that they just got proposed and accepted. So if they're going to remain relevant, if they're going to remain, that second brand, if you want to call it that, to the WWE in terms of notoriety and continue to grow, they're going to have to do certain things like this to attract bigger names like the guys like a Jeff Cobb or a Lance Archer, who is supposedly, it was reported he was signing with AEW. Maybe that's not the case, but, rather than losing talent because they're saying, look, no, you have to sign exclusively with us, and having a guy go to a different promotion, whether that's New Japan, Ring of Honor, or anywhere else, they almost have to do this now if other companies are allowing the talent to do that.
Right.
If they want to continue to remain credible and continue to sign top-tier talent, it seems like.
Now, you bring up Lance Archer and his status, and he actually just tweeted earlier this week a very trolling tweet where he basically mentioned every single promotion that there could be, hinting that he could be at all of them. NXT, Impact, Ring of Honor, AEW, New Japan. It was a very cool tweet, very funny, and he actually tweeted another trolling one where he said he signed a contract, ... with T-Mobile.
Yeah.
So we still don't know where Lance Archer is going, but, Lance Archer, Brodie Lee, Jeff Cobb, all free agents and all big guys. And that's a big target that AEW wants now. They need those big athletic guys. And Jim Ross just spoke about this on his Grilling JR podcast, where he said that's the goal right now for All Elite Wrestling. They need to add big athletic guys to the roster. And with this, big flux of free agents coming, Archer, Brodie Lee, Jeff Cobb, you would think they'd try to get at least one, if not all three of those guys, because they need it.
Yeah, and that's always been, in the short period of time that AEW has been around, the people who are usually critical of AEW, whether that's other professional wrestlers or guys who have worked in the industry or even fans, the big knock on them, or the knock that most people point to, is the lack of size in the professional wrestlers.
Right.
I don't necessarily think a guy like Cody Rhodes is undersized. He's a good sized professional wrestler. But the guys you just mentioned, all of them, especially a guy like Lance Archer, who is extremely athletic for his size.
Yeah.
The bigger guys are typically the guys that have been larger than life, and it's always a draw. Like even in comparison to like boxing or UFC, like the heavyweights typically is it's gonna sell.
Right.
We have a big fight coming up. Wilder and Fury in boxing. I'm sure that will do tons and millions of pay-per-view buys. So you want to have the physical guys in there. And all of those people are certainly capable of going to AEW and making a name for themselves.
No, I totally agree. And, Brodie Lee's a guy that was heavily underutilized in WWE and could totally be a huge bump for AEW's roster. We saw what Lance Archer could do in the G1 Climax last year. We saw what he could do in Wrestle Kingdom this year with Jon Moxley.
Yeah.
It actually makes me wonder because there's another report that came out that Jeff Cobb wasn't the first choice for the hired gun role in this story with Jericho and Moxley, that someone else was there. I wonder if Archer was supposed to be that guy.
Yeah.
Because it kind of fits with everything that happened at Wrestle Kingdom. Jericho and Moxley were both at Wrestle Kingdom. Moxley faced Archer at Wrestle Kingdom. He kind of looks more like a hired gun than Jeff Cobb does, although both are great fits for the role. But it makes me wonder who that guy was. So let me know in the comments who you guys thought the hired gun was supposed to be if it wasn't Jeff Cobb. But do you have any idea? Do you think it could have been Archer? Or?
Well, I mean, at this point, I guess it's more or less just kind of a rumor, but it could have been him. I couldn't think of anybody else who, off the top of my head, who may have fit that role.
Yeah.
Because you got to think if it's somebody who they're going to put in that position, you'd want it to be somebody who's easily recognizable.
Right.
Lance Archer, obviously having previously worked in TNA back in the day, and New Japan coming off, his probably one of the years where he was, most credited for his improvement, not so much improvement in the ring, but a really good string of some really good high quality matches.
Yeah.
So, your guess is as good as mine, but if I was to guess, I'd probably say it was Lance Archer.
If AEW can only get one of the three between Brodie Lee, Lance Archer, and Jeff Cobb, who do you think they grab?
Ooh, that's tough. If it were my personal choice, I'd go with Lance Archer. The difficult thing with that signing former WWE talent is you don't want to follow suit, and Cody even talked about this, follow suit with what TNA did back in the day. Now, obviously, TNA, when they were signing former WWE talent, most of them were past their prime or towards the end of their prime. A guy like Brodie Lee, certainly, I don't think is at that point. But Lance Archer, like I said, a guy coming off a really solid year with a lot of buzz, they can really kind of create him into whatever they want him to be.
Right.
And they could do that with Brodie Lee, too. But I feel like Lance Archer is like introducing a different type of character, not necessarily like, oh, yeah, we know him from WWE, and now all of a sudden he's here. And,
right.
So I would choose Archer if it were my choice.
I probably would go with Archer as well, but I wouldn't be upset with either of the three. I think Jeff Cobb is so determined to do a lot more with New Japan Pro Wrestling that I don't think they can really get him full-time in AEW. He would have to get some kind of agreement with AEW that says he's going to be more in New Japan than in All Elite Wrestling. Brodie Lee, I don't know. I mean, to me, I think he's better fit in New Japan than AEW right now. But Archer, I think he has the better character work. And we've seen that over the last few months. His build with Moxley was good. If you saw his stuff on YouTube. But I think Archer probably would be the best bet. But speaking of characters on YouTube, Matt Hardy is at it again. So Matt Hardy, who we thought was written off of Raw last week, is going to have a no-holds-barred match with Randy Orton on Raw this week. And before his match, he cut a very good promo on his Matt Hardy brand YouTube channel. And of course, he's hinting at what's going to happen to me? You thought you could kill me off and I'm unkillable. A lot of uncertainties here, including what could happen in the next couple of weeks. Where is he going to be? So let's ask the question. If AEW is so focused on big athletic guys, Matt Hardy doesn't really fit that bill.
No.
So do they still go after him knowing that their main focus is big athletic guys? Or is he going to go somewhere else? Or even, in fact, re-sign with WWE?
So here's the thing. We know that WWE had to go through quite a bit to get that Woken character
over.
Get it over as much as they could, because I think it clicked with some fans, but a lot of the fans it also didn't click with.
Right.
And there was that whole dispute where they were trying to see who had the rights to that character and all of that. So I don't know who actually owns the rights to that right now. I don't know if it's Matt Hardy, if it's WWE. I got to think that
the broken character is Matt Hardy. He owns the broken character.
Yeah.
The Woken character is WWE.
Okay. So I got to think that if AEW wants Matt Hardy, is going to sign Matt Hardy just by himself without Jeff for right now, he's only worth something to them if he's going to be the broken character. Because, there's nothing wrong with Matt Hardy, but let's be honest here, he's not young.
Nope.
He's probably towards the tail end of his career. If they're going to do anything with Matt Hardy with Jeff, I'd imagine they'd want it to be as a package if they're not going to do the broken Matt Hardy gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're worth more as a tag team in comparison to just Matt by himself not doing the broken gimmick.
Right.
So, I don't know. Part of me thinks that a lot of this might be a work. And he is going to re-sign with WWE, but then you have all the reports saying he's turned down all these offers and everything. Because it wouldn't be the first time we saw it. I mean, we saw Randy Orton do it. We've seen the Revival do it. Obviously, they were offered contracts. They didn't resign.
Last year, around this time, it was Moxley.
Yeah.
This is how they wrote off Moxley last year with the no-holds-barred match with Drew McIntyre.
Yep.
So I think this is going to be his sign-off to WWE. Now, do I think he's going to go to AEW? I think a lot of people would like that. I think a lot of people are hoping he is the exalted one for the Dark Order. I don't think that's going to happen. I think if anywhere, believe it or not, we already saw one surprise where everyone thought Marty Scurll was going to AEW, ends up in NWA and re-signs with Ring of Honor. I think Matt Hardy does the same thing. I think Matt Hardy is probably going to go to NWA where they're more based on character development than in-ring work or sports entertainment like WWE does. And I think they can use, like, if NWA can land Matt Hardy, that's a huge get.
Yeah.
Absolutely huge.
And not only that, he also took a page right out of Lance Archer's book as well. Because if you listen to what he was saying, he said he knows he can perform at an elite level and he has the honor to make an impact. And he pretty much
He's same teasing thing. Everybody.
Suggesting he can show up anywhere. So yeah, I don't know. I really don't know where he's going to end up. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I just don't know how much you'll actually get out of, like, if let's say he signs with All Elite Wrestling, right? How far can they actually take that broken character?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, I think it was probably at its peak in TNA or Impact.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I think the biggest question is at what role is he going to have at whatever promotion he is. Right. And I think at this point in his career, he will have a very short time as a full-time competitor, do whatever he needs to do to take the final bumps of his career, and then lead into a producer role. And I think that's where he'll really excel backstage for whatever promotion he ends up with.
Yeah.
I think NWA can really gain that knowledge that he has because he has such the experience he has in tag team wrestling, the experience that he has with character development, promos. He could do so much. Yep. And AEW can use a guy like him too. I'm not saying he won't fit in AEW either. I just think for what I think he has left in the tank, he probably would be better for his lifestyle and his career in NWA. That's just me personally.
Yeah, my only concern, like I said, is just if he does intend to go somewhere and wrestle under the gimmick, you know, the broken Matt Hardy gimmick, has it already peaked? Did it already peak in TNA and Impact? And how much more of that can they actually get out of that gimmick? Is it going to work in AEW? I'm sure their fan base will like it. But you know, is it going to actually do anything for them?
Right.
You know, when you're trying to establish a company, when you're looking at all these guys like Lance Archer and all these guys, that maybe the casual fan isn't necessarily aware of. They're going to know who a casual fan's going to know who Matt Hardy is. But are they really going to get the broken Hardy gimmick? And they didn't necessarily get it in WWE, so why would they get it in AEW?
True. I think maybe he does a total different character with wherever he goes.
It's possible.
That's also possible. Maybe take hints of the broken character, but not necessarily be broken Matt Hardy. But let us know in the comments where you guys think. Does he go to AEW? Does he go to NWA? Does he re-sign with WWE? Also, what do you think of AEW getting the big athletic guys as well as Jeff Cobb not signing full-time to AEW in the comments below? We also talked about this whole kind of situation with the return of the territories. You can click that thumbnail on the screen now. Don't forget to share this all over social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, SCPV Podcast. And for news, reviews, and conversations on all things pro wrestling, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. For Al Valenti, my name's Michael Valenti, and we'll talk to you on the next episode of the Squared Circle Psycho Babble.